folks, welcome back to my channel. For this video I'm going to be looking at a selection of Scottish literary locations. So essentially places in Scotland that have literary connections. I was thinking if you are coming to Scotland and maybe wanting to have more of a literary holiday and visit locations that have connections to Scottish literature, these are some of the places that you might be interested in visiting. But before I get on to the main topic of the video, a wee bit of housekeeping first. If you're enjoying my channel, if you're enjoying my videos, if you can click on the subscribe button, click on that notification bell, leave some likes, leave some comments, it's always really appreciated. And if you'd like to support the channel further, I will post a link to the charlescoffee.com page and to the PayPal account in the description bar below and in a pinned comment in the comments section. So with that out of the road, with that done and dusted, now on to the main topic of the video itself. So again, these are locations in Scotland that have connections to Scottish literature, and I will start with probably what is the most obvious one, but the most obvious doesn't necessarily mean it is bad. I will start with the city of Edinburgh. Again, Edinburgh is one of the locations that when anyone comes to Scotland, they want to go to see Edinburgh. They want to see the architecture, they want to see the history, and again, you can't really blame them. As a city, it is very, it's a dark academia. It very much has that dark academia vibe about the place, especially on a kind of a dry, wet day, and everything's a bit darker. Again, perfect time of the year for it. But again, with Edinburgh, it does have the title of UNESCO City of Literature. It is the first city to gain that title, and again, quite rightly so. It's a city that is filled with so much literature, it's got connections to so many different writers, from like Robert Burns, Walter Scott, James Hogg, Robert Louis Stevenson. They all have connections to the city. And yeah, so it's definitely something that is worth celebrating and remembering. And one of the writers that is probably most famous for coming out of Edinburgh is Arthur Conan Doyle, who, as we all know, was the writer of the Sherlock Holmes stories. And as well as Conan Doyle being from Edinburgh, one of the main influences on the character of Sherlock Holmes himself also came from Edinburgh. He was a guy called Dr. Joseph Bell, who was a surgeon and medical lecturer at the University of Edinburgh. He actually was one of Conan Doyle's main lecturers when he was there as a medical student, and he was very much one for using observation when trying to diagnose what was wrong with his patients. So in relation to Conan Doyle, you can actually go and visit Piccadilly Place, which is where Conan Doyle was born. I don't think we're actually too sure of which house he was born in. I think it's just generally known that he was born in Piccadilly Place. And they actually have a statue right in front of the houses there of Sherlock Holmes himself. And I have actually seen the statue itself. It's very much standing in a very contemplative kind of posture, and I think it was actually taken away a few years back for restoration work, but it has been returned to its plinth at Piccadilly Place, so you can actually go and visit the statue. And across the road from the statue itself, so across the road from Piccadilly Place, there is St Mary's Cathedral, which is where Conan Doyle was christened. And I think pretty much right next to St Mary's Cathedral is the Conan Doyle pub. It's either right next to the cathedral, or it's just slightly around the corner. And it very much looks out towards Piccadilly Place, and is something else that very much celebrates Conan Doyle's connection to that part of the city. And so I think if you're trying to find it, it's pretty much up at York Place. So it's about 10-15 minute walk from Princes Street itself. But again, definitely worth a little wander up to try and pay a visit to. And again, probably one of the most famous locations for famous landmarks in Edinburgh that has a literary connection is the Scott Monument, which stands right on Princes Street and is very much a dominant feature of Edinburgh as a city. And obviously, as we all know, as the name suggests, it celebrates Sir Walter Scott, who did have connections to Edinburgh. But one thing that people probably don't realise about the Scott Monument, as well as celebrating Sir Walter Scott, it also celebrates other Scottish writers. Because if you actually look at the actual canopy, the masonry canopy that surrounds Scott's statue, there are carvings of faces, and from what I remember reading, a lot of these carved faces represent other Scottish writers, and one of them just happens to be Robert Tannahill, who was Paisley's Weaver poet. But if you are in Edinburgh, you want maybe a bit more of a walk, but also maybe while visiting somewhere that has literary connections, definitely go to Arthur's Seat, because for anyone who has read Confessions of a Justified Sinner, you will remember that there is a scene between Robert Ringham, who is the main character of Confessions, and his supposed half-brother, and it takes place on Arthur's Seat. So, and again, when you're at Arthur's Seat, you do get really good views of the city as well. If you are on the Royal Mile as well, just off the Royal Mile, there is the Writers' Museum, which celebrates Burns, Stevenson and Scott. So three of the big names in Scottish literature. And I think it does have a selection of different artefacts from Robert Burns, Robert Louis Stevenson and Sir Walter Scott. So again, if you're into finding out about different Scottish writers, the Writers' Museum is definitely somewhere that you should pop in and have a visit. And also has to be remembered that Edinburgh is itself the setting of a number of different novels. You've got novels by Ian Rankin, which I think the vast majority of them are set in Edinburgh, and again very much does add to the atmosphere of his novels. We also have The Prime of Miss Jane Brodie and Trainspotting, which again are two very famous Scottish novels. And there is one event that took place in Edinburgh Castle that may be of interest to people, especially those who are fans of Game of Thrones, the TV series, or as if you've been reading the book series, which is known as The Song of Ice and Fire. Because back in 1440 at Edinburgh Castle, something called the Black Dinner took place, which saw the death of at least a couple of the Douglases, which was one of Scotland's noble families at the time, and they were essentially murdered during the dinner because they were a possible threat to the king. If my memory serves me correct from hearing about the event before, and this may actually spark a little bit of recognition in those who are fans of Game of Thrones, because that was the inspiration for the Red Wedding in both the book series and the TV series. So yeah, you can pretty much find literary connections to pretty much all of Edinburgh if you really want to, and you could probably spend a good few days exploring it all. But going a bit further afield, we also have Abbotsford, which was the home of Walter Scott, and it was somewhere that I think he actually did a lot of work kind of on the building itself and making it into the building that we see today. And if you actually are wanting to go and explore it, it is located in the Scottish borders near the town of Melrose, It's actually in the care of the Abbotsford Trust, and I've seen some video footage and some photos of the building itself, and it does look like a stunning place to go visit, and it is somewhere that I really want to go visit myself and explore. It just looks like it's just going to be a stunning place, really tranquil with a lot of gardens to explore as well. And again, for those who love Burns, love Burns' poetry and his work, definitely get yourself to Burns' Cottage and Birthplace Museum. Again, it's located in Alloway, just on the edge of the town of Ayr, and as the name suggests, it's where Burns was born. The cottage is under the care of the National Trust for Scotland, and the National Trust for Scotland are also the ones who built and run the Birthplace Museum. And again, if you are in Alloway, as well as being able to visit the cottage, be able to visit the museum, and which does actually contain over 5,000 Burns related artefacts, you can actually go and visit the old Alloway Kirk, is where Robert Burns' parents are buried, and is also the location of where Tam O'Shanter sees the witches in the poem Tam O'Shanter. And you can also go along to the Brigadoon, which is where Tam O'Shanter escapes from the witches. So Alloway is definitely somewhere that you should definitely go and explore if you are a lover of Burns' poetry and Burns' songs. And you can also go and visit Burns' house in Mauchline and Dumfries, because he didn't spend all his time in Alloway. He did actually move about a wee bit, pretty much in South Ayrshire and in Dumfries and Galloway. And the Burns house in Dumfries is actually where Burns died. He spent the last 3 years of his life, and he actually died in that house. And you can actually walk along the road a wee bit to St Michael's Kirk, and you can actually visit the Burns Mausoleum in the St Michael's Kirkyard. So again, definitely plenty of places in that neck of the woods if you're wanting to have some time learning about Burns. And maybe I can write that some people might not realise is Scottish, but we also have J.M. Barrie, who was obviously the writer of Peter Pan. He was born in Kirriemuir, which is up in Angus, so it's just to the north of Dundee. And they actually in Kirriemuir itself, they actually have a museum dedicated to J.M. Barrie, which I will have to go visit at some point. Hopefully when I am up for the Brecon Angus Book Festival later on this year, I'll actually be able to stop off at Kirriemuir and visit the museum and have a wee nosy around. So maybe one that I can do a video for and show you all my little visit to the museum. But as well as visiting Kirriemuir and the museum for learning about J.M. Barrie, you can actually also go down to Moatbrae, which is down near Dumfries. And this is where J.M. Barrie spent a good few years of his childhood playing. He used to go there for the summer holidays or something, and would play in the grounds of Moatbrae. And the building is actually under the care of the Moatbrae Peter Pan Trust, and was open to the public after a lot of work to restore it and to bring it up to scratch, and it was opened in 2019. So you can actually go and visit Moatbrae, and as well as celebrating the connection to J.M. Barrie, it also houses the National Centre for Children's Literature and Storytelling. So definitely a lot to see at Moatbrae, and somewhere that's definitely worth a visit, especially if you are interested in J.M. Barrie and Scottish literature. So the last place that I want to mention for this video is Wigtown, which is down the southwest corner of Scotland. It's down to facing Galloway, and it actually has the title of Scotland's Booktown. And from what I can gather, it's pretty much the fact that the town is just filled with bookshops, and that has actually become something of a draw for tourists that essentially want to go to this town in Scotland that is just filled with bookshops. And I think a lot of them are like second-hand bookshops, and I think there's quite a few. I think the vast majority of them are independent bookshops. So again, definitely something that's worth supporting. And it also has the Wigtown book festival every year as well. So definitely something that is worth going down and taking part in. Just again to have the atmosphere, and it does actually look like a really pretty little place to go visit. And again, it's probably somewhere else that I should really go and visit myself and spend some time in. And again, probably film a little video and show you what the town is like itself. So again, these are all suggestions of places in Scotland that have literary connections, that have connections to Scottish literature, and again, like with Wigtown, so promote and highlight Scottish literature. So hopefully you will all find this video interesting, hopefully you will have found it intriguing, and yeah, hopefully you will all come to Scotland and explore all these places with connections to Scottish literature itself. So again, hopefully you've all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.